I have lived long enough. Those were the words that came to me as I witnessed a good friend I met 42 years ago when he was just 15 and I was just 26, a new deacon in his parish. Just this past 4 weeks ago, he was installed as a judge in Hennepin County in Minnesota. I was privileged to be there for this installation. I was struck in that moment by how lucky I was to have lived long enough to have loved the children of children I have loved. So all I wrote on the back of the program as I sat there was, I have lived long enough. There was an incredible gratitude underneath of those words. Those words have stayed with me these last 4 weeks, and so has the gratitude. And then just yesterday we celebrated a Christmas baptism at the CSC. Near the end of every baptism I invite people to bless the new mom and the new dad. And her grandma, with her hands outstretched, her old hands stretched out over her granddaughter, this young mom. All she prayed was these words, may she live long enough. On this Christmas feast, this celebration of life itself, I invite you tonight to reflect with me on just those words. I have lived long enough. Perhaps those words could become about the greatest affirmation of your own life you could ever make, and strike at the very heart of the Christmas mystery. In my 40 plus years as a priest, I have buried too many children, too many teenagers and young adults, and people as old as 102. I buried my mom at 67. I buried my dad at 99. No one, it seems, wants to die unless perhaps the pain is unbearable. But many do not excessively resist or excessively fear death either. They somehow seem to somehow know that they've been so lucky they have been. And in a sense, the rest is gravy. When do we live long enough? Some of those kids live lives more complete than people who live into their hundreds. Could it be that the quality of our lives has nothing to do with the length of our years? Could it be that the quality of our lives has absolutely nothing to do with the length of our years? Most of us are afraid to die. Granted, death is a fearsome thing, especially when young ones are still dependent on us, or perhaps on a dream just begun. The Catholic Student Center, when I was assigned here 26 years ago now, I had this dream. I began with this dream of how church could be in this world, in this culture, this dream, this vision of how life could be lived in the gospel together, this vision of how a community could really be all about formation, that everybody who comes here is in sort of formation to become more and more capable of love, more and more capable of Christ, including the priest. And because it was just a beginning dream, in those years I found myself afraid of dying, frankly. Afraid that I would die before this dream had taken root and become anything. I even found myself afraid to get on a plane, I noticed one afternoon. because it felt like this dream was so young and still needed this vision if it was to ever happen. So let me ask you, when do we live long enough? Have you seen a sunset that stopped you in your tracks or made you rush outside to catch it before it passed? Have you witnessed the changing of the seasons? Summer become fall, become winter, become spring, become summer, even once? Or made your way up a hill just to see the Milky Way galaxy stretch from horizon to horizon? Or walked and walked and walked some more through woods and along rivers and oceans, past mountains, and sometimes just sat for hours just looking? Have you ever held an infant in your arms whose eyes locked on yours? Have you ever held a woman or a man close, so close, as if your whole life depended on it? Have you yet laughed until you cried? Or have you wept that you could hurt someone so much? Have you gotten lost in a conversation with a friend or a stranger that was electrifying and riveting, where hours felt like minutes and minutes held an eternity? Have you ever given away a lot of money just because? Or passed on to someone precious to you something or even someone who was precious to you? Even if it was your child, to God? Have you ever been forgiven? Have you lived long enough to doubt and still trust, to seek and seek again for more, or experience the thrill of learning something new, or the humility of admitting you were wrong? Have you heard another say to you, I love you, even if over time it got all screwed up? Have you ever been hungry and someone you gave you something to eat? Or cold and somebody gave you their jacket? Or lost and somebody stopped and gave you directions? Or had a car break down or something inside of you break down and somebody gave you a lift? Have you trembled? Have you trembled with fear or pleasure? Have you carried the sadness of the world in your bones for even a second? Or suffered the long loneliness? Or failed at anything? Or succeeded at something? Have you lived long enough to drink from the cup of your own longing? Our longing? Have you made a friend and been faithful to your friend? Then, my friends, you have lived long enough. And if you can say that, you won't be so afraid when it comes time to die. And you then will know that even having lived one day can make a whole life. And if you can't say yes to even one of those questions, even one, the fact that you are here this Christmas night says it's not too late to live the life you have been given. My friends, everything you want is already happening for you. At the beginning of Advent, we prayed with Isaiah the prophet, "Rend the heavens and come down. Break open the heavens and come down with us, to us, for us. Come down." And so God has. God has showed up for you. God has showed up for you in your own life. God has shown up for you disguised as your own life. At the beginning of Advent, Jesus said to us in the scriptures we proclaim that Sunday, pay attention, he cried, to your own life. Watch your life. It's happening. Don't let it happen without you. Dare to be present to the greatest present you have ever been given, the present of your own life. Be present to it now, to your own life. Don't miss it. If you have let yourself do that, then can you say with me tonight, can you say, I have lived long enough. The Word was made flesh and dwells among us. The Word is love. Love is here, now, in us, already in our own lives. And that is enough. If we let that be true, in the end we will not regret. We will not regret the days we were not given. Rather, we will regret that we did not live the life that we were given. We put so many gifts under the tree and we pull them out frantically on a night like this or tomorrow morning. We pull out the gifts from the tree and we turn them over in our hands in awe and gratitude for the gifts we've been given this Christmas. But maybe this Christmas it could be time for us to hold our own life in our hands, to pull our own life out from underneath of things into our own hands and turn it over again in wonder and in gratitude. I have lived long enough. If I fall over dead tomorrow or live another 40 years, I have lived. I have lived long enough. I could not ask for even one day more. My prayer for all of us, this Christmas night, my prayer for myself and my prayer for you, is that when it comes to the day of your death, the last breath you take, I pray with all my heart for you that the last words you speak are thank you. And that the first words you speak when you get to the other side are thank you.